Approval of financial report. Dr. Bell?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Mr. Superintendent, board members. In your package today is the monthly financial report for the month of September 2014, which is within our 2015 fiscal year. As you can see from the first summary page, based on a budgeted amount of about $800 million, we have expended for July, August, and through September $115,335, or 14.4% of that budget. That's very good, of course, because, you know, for the first quarter you might expect, in a linear sense, 25%, but of course our summer months are thin months. The good news is at the top of the first page relative to the revenue collection. At this same point in FY14, from local sources and state sources, we had collected $143,389,000, but as the end of this September, we've collected $207,660,000, or we're ahead about $64 million. Now, there are some sort of timing reasons for that, but it does appear very good news on the revenue side. In September of FY14, we got 4 wire transfers out of the tax commissioner's office. Taking a look at this past September, we received 5 wire transfers. Okay, they send the ad valorem taxes collected in tranches, just based on when they get. Normally, it comes in Monday or Tuesday of a week. Okay, and it turned out that we got 5 this past September. The due date, the first due date for taxes, was September 30 in both years. Okay, so other than, you know, digest growth and the values holding, and the additional wire transfer, which the tax commissioner's office tells me would account for about $35 or $40 million of the $64 million increase, you know, it's good news. And it's on, as you can you can see, it's in local sources. We, in the prior year, in terms of local sources, at the same point in time, we're at $97 million. This past September, the total was $156.9 million. We're up in state sources slightly also, from $45 million, we're up to $50,689,000. So overall, on the revenue side, things appear to be going pretty well. We hope to hold this advantage, or some substantial part of it, which will be our fund balance as we go through the year and close the books on FY15. You can see on the third page in the trend analysis sort of really shows this in terms of the red line being actual year-to-date revenue, a good bit higher than the trend line we had projected. Total projections, we thought we'd be at about $144.2 million. We're actually at the $207.6 million. On the local element, we had projected $96.1 million. We're actually at $156.9 million. And on the state side, we projected $50,689,000. We projected $48,084,000. We're actually at $50 million plus. Moving through the report to the sort of the statement of fund balance and operating surplus page, which would be about page 12 or 13. It's 13. Now, on page 13, it indicates, and we've got a final number now, a fund balance as of the end of 14, which is July 1, 14, of $40,981,000. Okay. Now that's above the 20 we imputed when we structured the budget, and it's above where we made a statement at about 31 million previously. As we move into a mid-year adjustment period, which is, we did that last year where we adjusted our expenses and adjusted some revenue assumptions, and that really helped us come within the budget, okay, manage to the budget, okay. When we bring that budget amendment to y'all, you'll see that the estimated $20 million fund balance will be stated at 40, so we'll have an additional 20, but we're going to have some additional expenses, of course, some adjustments that have been made since we started this year, and we'll be requesting, I think, the utilization of some of the money to clear up some accounting issues that the district has carried for a number of years. So All that being said, good news on the fund balance side, certainly for the end of 14. The amount of revenue we've collected above expenditures, along with the incremental fund balance, gives us an operating surplus as the end of September. And, you know, we're in the sort of the Christmas time of our tax collection year. The operating surplus is $133,294,000. But as we go through the year, of course, we're going to spend that number, that surplus number down. Certainly after property taxes, the final payment date comes and goes on property taxes. The other document I'd like to point your attention to is the emergency expenditure report on page 33. We talked a little bit about this in the previous monthly report. These are the ongoing expenditures of facilities relative to the copper vandalism situation. This is another statement of where we are in that regard. And the variance report just kind of summarizes what I've said, that we projected to be at 144 in revenue. We're actually at 207. We projected to be at 110.4 in expenses. We're actually at 115,335. Slightly higher in expenses, but nowhere near the straight line 25%. That is the monthly financial report for September, and I would request that the board accept it and put it on the consent agenda.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Mayfield?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bell. Quick questions on page 4. My favorite tax, the beverage tax. Is that a timing issue? Because there's nothing there for September.
That's correct. It could be a timing issue, but as you can see, on a year-to-date basis, last year we had collected $650,000, and this year it's at $658,000. I'll check into why there's nothing there for September. I don't believe everybody became teetotalers during the month of September.
I can't believe that either. The second question has to do with I think it's on page 6. This is early, but a trending question regarding legal expenses.
Yes, sir.
It looks like if you take the total year-to-date and average it across the year, it looks like it could come out at about $4 million, which is about 25% above the budget. Is there anything there, or is that just a timing issue?
There's some expenditures in that number which related to a cleanup of prior issues, settlement of prior legal expense issues, and so that is why you might have a bulge early on, okay? But hopefully, you know, we're going to bring it in at or below the $3 million indicator.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Just a quick question. Page 33, when we talk about the emergency purchases.
Yes, sir.
The 191, I think when we talked about this, we thought it'd be right at $1 million. Does this 191,000 get us close to that $1 million? Is this the final charge for the most part?
Facilities is keeping us informed that when all this is said and done, and we do have to make the final adjustment to their budget, it'll be about $1 million, $1.1 million, something like that. Yes, sir.
Mr. McMahon?
Thank you, Chair. And I'll stay on that emergency HVAC. Does this affect our heating at all now that we're getting into winter facilities? Or were these just like on the cooling units?
Correct. Majority of the units that were impacted were cooling units.
Right. So the work that's the additional 900,000 or whatever will be mainly for the cooling units, and since we're not in the heat of summer, it'll be done in a less aggressive time frame is what I'm getting at.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Regarding tax commissioners, Dr. Bell, I would like you to ask with the consent of the board, and this is just something that I'm seeing nationwide, and I'm wondering how it affects DeKalb. And this is regarding our bank-owned houses that have gone into foreclosure. Can you ask the tax commissioner for a bank-owned report in DeKalb, amount of properties that are bank-owned, how many have paid their taxes, how many have not, kind of a percentage. I'm looking for a percentage of taxes paid on that total number and what's still outstanding. And I guess by the time we ask, the final payment for taxes is due end of October, right, for DeKalb? November?
Beginning of November, yeah.
Beginning of November, so 2 days ago, I guess, or the 1st of November. Anyway, with that being said, I think they should have a total number. And I don't even mind waiting until December to ask it, just so we ask them once for the full year. But I guess, so what I'm asking is percentage of taxes paid versus percent that's owned, and actually which banks also owe, and they know that. Is that clear? Any questions on that from your standpoint?
I'm not certain what they have in their files, but they have very detailed files relative to who owns what property, does the property carry a homestead exemption. Taxes adhere on properties on January 1. Sometimes that's why you see bank sales in December, trying to get rid of the property, that type of thing. But I'll give them a call and talk to them about it.
Great, I appreciate that. Back to when do you know will, for fiscal year 14, our DE 46 be finalized and sent to the board?
DE 46 has been finalized and submitted to the state. That was done around October 30th.
Okay. Would it be possible for the board to get a copy of that? And has it been delivered?
It's been delivered electronically, yes, sir.
Okay. If I can get a copy of that, I appreciate that. And that ties me back into our variance report, which I can't necessarily direct you on the paper report, but in the variance on the electronic format in the Excel spreadsheet, and I'm looking at page 34. And in top right, you have year-to-date expense July through September. On page 34. On the Excel, when there's your little red dot that kind of gives an explanation about the Excel, about the formula, if you know what I'm talking about. It says that the year-to-date projected is based on fiscal 14 estimates and fiscal 13 actual numbers, is what it says in the report itself. And I'm just asking for clarity on that. If you can just offer an explanation.
I'll see what I can find out about it.
Yes.
You know, we do kind of a combination forecast and trend analysis. We take a new budget number, and then we take the proportionality of the prior year or two. We apply the prior proportionality to the new number and come up with a projected number. So I think that's what it's trying to describe.
Right, and I'm just looking at our variance is based on, now that we have our DE 46 for 14, that we're basing our actual numbers for 15 versus actual for 14. Is that how our variance report is? Or our reporting?
The DE 46 is about 60 to 80 pages of state required accounts.
No, I get that.
That really doesn't comport in detail to our budget documents, but
all right, fair enough. The numbers within the DE 46 are our final end-of-year numbers. No more adjustments, amendments. Is that a correct statement?
the state regards it as such. The state, once you start filling this thing in and you get corrections requested and warnings and you go through weeks of it, you get to a certain point where you feel confident that the system will accept it, you send it. Okay, now that doesn't mean it never happens, that something happens after October 30th that might modify the DE 46.
Sure, right.
And the DE 46, of course, starts with the general fund, which is not purely the general operating budget, it's about 90% of it. Then you have all of these different grant funds below it, and at that point in time, oftentimes you have deficits in those grant funds.
And I'll leave it at this for today. if you can address the variance with that little notation and see where those numbers are aligned, or if there was an error in the explanation of that box, and then once you respond back with that, then I'll take that conversation further, and we'll figure it out. And I appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
Dr. Morley, followed by Mr. Mayfield.
One of the things I'd like to be able to understand is the relevancy of finding out about all the foreclosed properties in DeKalb County or wherever else, and the banks who own them. Some of the stuff seems to not have any real impact on what we're doing as far as educators in the district. And again, we constantly tax upon the administration to be able to find this information. Unless it's going to yield us more money and more funding, then why are we going through all of this? We have to begin to look at what we're asking for and to see what is going to impact. How does it impact education? How does it impact the success of our children in schools? I would like to know about all that too. I think some of this stuff we have to begin to look at and say that it should be a personal matter, and we might want to do it on our own time. I think one of the greatest opportunities for me was the last board meeting. I was not able to be here, but I was able to observe the board meeting on TV. Sometimes we have to begin to observe and not participate and begin to see some things going on. And as I was looking at some of the things that were being brought up, I was a little disgusted. I was a little shocked and a little sad as to what we're here to do and what we're supposed to do, and some of the things that we just keep beating dead horses over the head and keep bringing up as a board, reminding ourselves that we have a task to do and what we're here for, and that if we don't continue doing what we're supposed to do, we're going to go back where we were before with the last board, even though I wasn't a part of that last board. But it just concerns me of some of the things that we asked this administration to do, and then the things that we asked the administration to do, circumventing the superintendent in this whole process, and begin to see what's the need, what's the basis, what's the impact, what's the benefit. Is it going to benefit education? Is it going to benefit the children? Is it going to benefit DeKalb County? And if it's not, begin to look at how we continuously putting this on the administration, tasking on tax dollars, because we're taking them away from what they really need to be doing in the day-to-day run of this school system. And as a board, we're not supposed to be entrenched into day-to-day operations of the district. And I see us more and more being able to do that, and I was really able to see that the last time just by observing and not being here to participate face to face. So I would like for us to begin to look at and ask ourselves questions when we come to the board meeting, is to ask, does it have any impact? What's the relevancy? What's the benefit? How is it going to affect what's going on, our roles as board members, but also the administration and what they're trying to do? And is it going to overpack the overall student academic success and what we're here to actually do?
Mr. Mayfield.
Dr. Bell, regarding the statement you made regarding the state report and possible post-submission adjustments, do you have a sense of how accurate, if someone from the public were looking at the state's website to look at DeKalb's numbers, if you will, how accurate would those numbers be? I'm assuming they reflect that document, that accounting report. I mean, just ballpark.
Yes, sir. Well,
plus or minus.
I think it's probably 98% plus. Okay, it's not, but the state regards it as submitted and accurate. Okay, and it's interesting enough, I can't find where there's a response once you submit it where the state says accepted. Okay. There may be something in there, but my people weren't aware that the state says, you submit it, accept it, or something like that. But I do know that when the state, regulators come back and talk to us about various issues such as maintenance of effort and that type of thing, they're regarding as authoritative the DE 46.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. McMahon.
Thank you, Chair. And Dr. Morley, I do appreciate your questions asking why and how does this affect students and learning and education, regarding the questions that I inquire about. So just to give you a little larger perspective, which is the big four banks have been fined over $100 billion in the past 24 months regarding their illegal activity or not making the right reports and files. And so with that being said, there's a national epidemic going on where these banks have not been paying their taxes that they owe. And even though we are above schedule on our revenue for local digest, I am being proactive in my ability here to address this concern, and I'm only asking the administration to ask one question. And nothing, just ask the question. The onus would be upon the tax commissioner's office to produce the information. So the result of that information might give us a better understanding if this is an issue within DeKalb that needs our addressing, or if it doesn't. And my goal is that it would increase our revenues on our collections so that we could add dollars and teachers to the classrooms and help benefit our students in the classroom. I hope that helps. Thank you.
No further discussion. Is there any opposition to placing this item on the consent agenda for this evening?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thurman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Prior to action on this item, I think I would be remiss if we did not, as we in the past noted Dr. Bell's outstanding leadership, but as I was sitting and listening, I think it would be appropriate also to recognize every cost center manager in this district, at the central office as well as in the schools across this county, who managed to the budget, as Dr. Bell said. This $40.9 million surplus would not be possible unless, and if not for the outstanding stewardship of the men and women who work in this district, who managed the budget, who bought the budget in under budget, who were conscientious, and who respected the dollars that are being invested in this school district by the taxpayer. And I think all of us would be remiss if we didn't note it, not just for this record, but also for the people who are watching and listening to this program. One of the challenges we faced, and one of the justified criticisms that's been heaped upon this school district for years and years and years, is that the people who sat in these seats and who worked in this office did not manage the resources in a professional way, that we squandered millions of dollars and negatively impacted academic achievement and growth in this county. And I think as we close the books on 2014 with a $40.9 million surplus, we have to recognize that major progress has been made in the area of maintaining fiscal integrity and continuing to manage the dollars of the taxpayers who are investing in this district. And I think it's appropriate, Mr. Chair, and I just wanted, with your deference, to make that known because it is not a minor accomplishment, and it should be noted.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and well noted that Dr. Bell and your staff and the superintendent, you all have done a wonderful job in managing, as you forestated, and we appreciate it. Is there any opposition to placing this item on the consent agenda? Hearing none, this item will be placed on the consent agenda.